Therapy Chat Podcast, episode 91.
This is the Therapy Chat Podcast with Laura Reagan, LCSW-C. The information shared in this podcast is not a substitute for seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. And now, here's your host, Laura Reagan, LCSW-C.
Hi, welcome back to Therapy Chat. Last week in episode 90, I spoke with Margot Borden about coming home to the soul using psychospiritual therapy. We're going to continue thinking about soul work in today's episode. I interviewed Chonteau McElvin. You may remember Chonteau from an earlier episode of Therapy Chat, way back in the beginning, actually. She is a fascinating person who is so spiritual and connected with herself, nature, her community in a beautiful way. She helped me reimagine my concept about something that all women deal with. I'll let you be surprised in hearing what it is. But I hope you're going to enjoy this conversation. Chonteau talks about what she's doing to help people learn how to connect with their souls in practical steps. And she talks about her own experience. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi, welcome back to Therapy Chat. Today is a special opportunity to hear from someone who was with me in one of my earliest episodes back when Therapy Chat was called the Baltimore Annapolis Psychotherapy Podcast. Chonteau McElvin was my guest on episode 4, and it was a beautiful interview, and I'm excited that Chonteau is back to talk with us again today. So Chonteau, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thank you so much. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before we started about how much we've both evolved in how we show up since we talked it was about a year ago. And, a lot can happen in a year, I guess.
Yes, a lot can happen in a year.
Yeah. So I'm just really excited to talk to you today about, what you're doing now and kind of how you're working with clients, which you've really been doing all along, but I didn't understand as deeply as I do now. So why don't you give our audience an update on your work and yourself and just what you're doing now?
Okay, that sounds good. Well, I guess I wanted to mention, as we were talking behind the scenes, I admitted to not fully showing up when we talked before. You mentioned you had gone to my website and you didn't see a lot of the things that are on there now. And you were like, yeah, were you doing those things? And I'm like, yep, I was doing them. I was just hiding them. So I'm excited to kind of come back this time around as we have this conversation. And I'm feeling much more free and giving myself much more permission to just really step into who I am. So I wanted to say thanks for giving me that opportunity to show up as I'm going to show up today.
Yeah, I'm so grateful that you're going to show us more of who you are, because it was wonderful the first time. And I think it's going to be even better now.
Cool. So what have I been up to? I've really been up to embracing my shamanic practices, owning my medicine woman self. People have called me medicine woman for years, and I kind of gave them that side eye, like, I'm not quite sure, maybe, yeah, I think so. And so that's one of the biggest things that I've been up to, is showing up in a bigger space within myself to claim this power that we all have. And so I'm helping to wake that power up in others. Just happens to be mostly women right now that is coming to me and wanting to wake up this inner medicine woman, this inner shaman, which really is just someone who's just deeply connected to nature, deeply connected to this what we call the other side of the veil, just deeply connected to the other side, the other world, and being able to move between these two worlds in a way that's harmonious and can bring back this wisdom, this information for all of us to receive and be a part of for our transformation, for our healing. So that's a big thing that I'm doing, just showing up in full force. And then, I have these other services that I've brought online, but the biggest thing is I've started Soul Care University, which is huge for me because I've always talked about having a healing center, but I didn't realize that the healing center was going to be a virtual healing and empowerment center. And that's kind of what it has turned into. I love developing programs. That's what I did when I was a social worker. Besides working with the girls that I worked with, I love developing the programs to support them and to support their parents. And so I have all these ideas in my head. I have all these different classes in my head. I love teaching. I love doing the healing work, but I think I love teaching more. And so what shows up is that the healing comes through the teaching. And so I really wanted to ask the universe to open up the ideas of how to bring this healing teaching to the world. And it was Soul Care U. It's a place where I can put on my e-courses, share this information, and really it's information of how I shifted and changed my life, how I awakened these parts within myself, how I have been able to take care of myself through all these years of the ups and downs. It's all the spiritual practices that have been near and dear to my heart. I'm now developing programs for other women mostly to receive them and learn them and practice them.
That's so beautiful and pretty amazing to imagine that people could learn these practices for themselves virtually. Is that what you're saying? It's Soul Care U is a place for people to learn about healing practices that they can do.
Yes.
For themselves.
For themselves. Yes. For themselves. Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the things when I, in my own self-care world, I was always looking for information on, well, how can I meditate? Or I wanted to hear people's stories because I learned through stories. And so I would read people's stories in books, or I'd go to different seminars, and I'm wanting to hear the stories of how did they do it? What are the practices that they use to support themselves through their life? And I would just gobble up this information, and then I would try these things, and I would work with these things, and I would do my own meditations, and I would go outside, and I'd connect with the earth. So all these different teachings I was learning, and I was always kind of told in that spiritual space, right, in our intuitive self, I was always told, you're going to teach this one day. People need to know what you're doing and how you're able to care for yourself at such a deep level. It's possible to live in this modern world, have 2 kids, have a partner, work a 9 to 5, doing the soccer, the basketball thing, and still deeply support your spiritual practice. And it's
that
important.
Sounds pretty revolutionary right there.
It's huge because we're in this paradigm of I can be a soccer mom, me, or I can be, this amazing spiritual teacher. Well, it's no longer or, it's and. I'm running my kids off to basketball practice, and I'm also taking care of myself and supporting my clients. So it's these and when I moved out of that paradigm of ors and entered into this and, so much more became possible without ever forgetting that my soul nourishment comes first. Thus, Soul Care University is a reflection of that.
Wow. I just have to sit there for a second. You have so many ways that you are doing healing work, and this is a wonderful way for people to to learn about what some of the things are, but can you talk about them? Like, what is soul care, and what are some of the types of practices that you are teaching in Soul Care U?
So for me, soul care, it started at one level of, just making sure that I took a day off of work every month, for instance. And this is when I was working my 9 to 5. I was working at a pretty intensive program where, we're trying to work with our girls and provide them the best that we can. And it was not looked upon very nicely to take off a day, because so much could go down, as we know, when we're working in these different facilities, so much could go down in one day. But I was committed to taking one day off a month. And the day that I would choose would be the day that I was on my moon time, meaning when I was menstruating, because I knew the power of my moon time. And that was a time to do ceremony. That was a time to nurture myself, to love myself, to drink herbal tea, to sleep, to vision, so forth and so on. So every month I took off one day a month, which was my moon time. And on that day, I would journal. I would create my own ceremony. I would bake something, or I'd make a really amazing, lunch for myself. If I was cramping, then, I had a special tea that I drank. I'd curl up in bed. I might watch, movies all day long. I gave myself what I needed for that one day. And the next day when I showed up to work, I was refreshed. I was ready to go. And that's how it started for me. Just one day off of work. And that evolved. Oh, go ahead.
I didn't even open my mouth. How'd you know I wanted to say something?
Oh, I'm psychic like that.
You're intuitive for sure. So, I have to say, wow. I mean, that blows me away, because, it's not just about the one day off. It's the moon time.
Yeah.
It's like the Western paradigm of menstruation it's disgusting. It's something to be, you try to just pretend isn't happening. You just try to forget about it and get, it's like when you think about the parts of yourself, it's just a part that you just don't even want anything to do with. It's just something you try to, get away from.
Avoid.
Even though every month you have to deal with it. And, for most people, it's 3 to 5 days out of the month. It's not even, so it's not going anywhere for a long time. But the idea that that's a time of creativity and ritual, and then nourishing self-care, that's just such a paradigm shift.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, because I was brought up in that culture as well. The sacredness of our moon time is a philosophy that I adopted. It was not one that was within my own family unit. I had the classic family unit of ignore, disgusting, wrap your napkins up in a paper bag, all this, everything is dirty.
Yeah.
So it was just through my awakening of my spiritual practice that I began to learn what other cultures did, what other women did during their menstruating time. And I shifted a very miserable, very painful time of the month, because I had horrible cramps for many years. I shifted that actually when I was in college, when I started reading and opening to the ancient wisdom of our blood mysteries and of our women's wisdom, of the grandmothers. When I began opening up to that wisdom, I shifted that when I was in my latter college years, to where I no longer had cramps, to where I was using my moon time as a way to set goals for my month. Like, I really got deep into, I've croned. I'm no longer a bleeding woman, as they say. So I've croned.
You've croned.
I've croned. I'm a grandmother I'm not really a grandmother, but I've croned. I no longer bleed. I croned early. I croned when I was like 43. I'm 47. So And that's a whole nother energy. And I understand why I transitioned so early. But anyway, back to moon time. So yeah.
Oh, you're blowing my mind. Keep it up.
Right?
Keep it up.
It's like, is this too much information or is this just the right amount?
I like your perspective, and I like your embracing of your whole self instead of, hiding part of yourself that our culture says is shameful.
Mm-hmm.
When it's really just, it's, women can't have children if we didn't have menstruation.
Yeah, that's right. And that's soul care. For me, that is self-care. That is soul care, is being with each part of ourselves. And if we are hiding, to being aware that we're hiding and beginning that process of opening and peeking out the door. And so when we talk about, the practices of soul care, that's kind of it. It's that peeking through the door and, taking out my foot and then my leg and then the rest of my body comes through. So taking a day off was huge. Also, taking the weekend to go away just to be still. So I might, hang out with a friend, or, I may, tell the family I'm going to a weekend retreat to rejuvenate so that I can, be in nature and be by myself. Things that are a little closer to home would be to just journal. For me, journaling is huge. Journaling saved my life. It has taken me through some of the most challenging times of my life as a child, as a teenager, as an adult. So being very intentional with my journal writing, buying special books, spending the time to explore the different journal books and different stores, and actually spending a half a day just searching for the perfect one, and then going to the park for 2 or 3 hours on a hike just so that I can connect with my journal and write. For me, that is soul care. That's getting in touch with all those parts of myself that I may not feel like I can on a regular day, but can certainly take that time away in order for me to do that. So I'm a parent, and so I talk a lot about the importance of getting away from my kids. They drive me bananas sometimes. And so I give myself permission to say, I'll see y'all later. I need to go do some stuff for myself, which might be to go to the local park and just sit for an hour or two in the sun and think and contemplate and explore what's going on inside of my body and what's going on inside of my emotions. That's nature therapy for me. That's how nature supports me. Naming trees and learning about flowers and plants and the weeds growing up around me. For me, that is a huge part of my soul and self-care. For someone else, it might be painting. For someone else, it might be jogging. For someone else, it might be gazing at clouds. For someone, it could be climbing trees or just driving an hour in one direction on a road. Might be soothing and supporting for someone. Turn around and come back just because you're needing that space. So soul care for me really is about finding what nourishes me. Nourishment is what feeds us. So we think of nourishment as like certain types of food. Nourishment is what feeds us. So what feeds our soul? What nourishes our soul? Susan Weed is an amazing teacher. She was a mentor of mine for a number of years. And she talks about nourishment as being that when we nourish ourselves with an herb, let's say, that particular herb is, the one time we use it, it is beneficial. So we don't worry about if we're going to get to use it again. That one time we drink that alfalfa infusion, all those vitamins and minerals within that alfalfa is nourishing our body. That one time we are getting the benefit. So it only takes one time, one thing, and our soul benefits from that one time. We don't have to worry about, oh, when am I going to get another day off? Or when am I going to do this again? It doesn't matter, because that one time we do something to nourish our soul, we get the benefit.
That's a great message, because, I think that can be a deterrent to making the time as, oh, I wouldn't be able to keep this up. Oh, taking one day off per month is too hard. Just start with the one day.
Mm-hmm. Start with a half a day.
Yeah.
How many times do we leave work to go to a doctor's appointment? Oh, I got to leave at 12 today. I got a doctor's appointment. Schedule a half a day off. Come in late. Oh, I'm running late today. If taking a full day off for your moon time is too much, take the morning off. Take the morning off because you want to have some herbal tea. You want to spend a little extra, intention setting time, prayer time, sitting outside on your back porch time, and then go in at 10 o'clock.
Now, I want to mention, since we're talking about it, and you mentioned tea, I know you make teas right? You make special...
I do. I make
tinctures
remedies.
and concoctions.
Yep, concoct little potions and concoctions and things. Yeah, I do. I have transitioned to a more customized way of working with others. I used to I don't want to say mass produce, but I would make, quite a bit and then do a show or, do a vend type of thing. And I would even do consultations over the phone, but it was more focusing on the physical aspects of where we might be out of balance. And so I've moved to a more customized way of working with our plant allies, because I'm really intuitive, and I know that the herbal blends that I make are on a level of energy support and spiritual support in awakening or in releasing or things like that. So now the blends that I make really are after we have had a session and either an herbal, like a shamanic herbal session, like a reading, or we've had a healing session. And these herbs now are showing up in your vibration as wanting to support you. And so now I'll make that blend and I'll mail it out if it's someone who I'm working with distance-wise. But I don't create the blends like I used to. I now teach other herbalists how to do that.
So you do that as part of the services you provide?
Yes, I have an herbals academy that I've actually had this is our 4th year in our Intuitive Herbal Mentor Academy. And so that is being transitioned over to Soul Care University. So now people will be able to learn the way I learned, and they will be able to learn about the intuitive herbalism and how to deeply connect with nature, and also how to learn remedies and how to make their own herbal teas or make their own tinctures, but from a perspective that is of honor and respect of Pachamama, the earth.
Thank you. While we're defining terms, there's another phrase you mentioned that I would like for you to explain a little bit more for some who are listening who may be completely new to these concepts, which, as I said to you before we started recording, if you and I had had this conversation the first time, I would have been like, so I'm surprised how much my understanding has evolved in the past year, but I know some people who are listening might be like, what is this? So
they're like,
yeah. And then they can come back a year later and listen and go, oh, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
But what did you mean when you said the two worlds and you said the other side? Can you explain that a little bit more?
Yeah. So I'll explain it the way my therapist that I used to see, and I would see her and I would talk to her about different clients I had. And I had a particular client, a girl, and she was very she could, like, she would talk about, her dead grandma, or, her friend who had passed away. And so I was talking to my therapist about it, and she's like, sometimes people's have a thin veil. So we have this side where we're all a lot of living at, and we're all in this three-dimensional world. And, everything is very tangible. We can touch the teacup. We can see our friends who are here, and we interact with them. She's like, and then we have this veil. And on the other side of this veil is the spirit realm. It's a place where, her grandmother is. And it's a place where her friend is. It's on the other side of that veil. And some people, that veil is really thick. You can't see through it. You can't hear. It's almost like a thick wall. But there is something on the other side of that wall. You just can't see it. You just can't smell it. You just have no idea what's going on. And then that wall, there are these varying stages of lucidness, right? So now it's like I can't see through it, but maybe I can hear. Or I'm starting to get little images because the veil it's thinning. So that story kind of explains how some people are just very connected to that spiritual realm, those other dimensions, we'll say. And sometimes the veil is just really thin, where you can hear or you can see. So I have conversations with my father all the time, and my father passed away 7 years ago. My veil is just really, really thin. We have a great relationship. That's an example of kind of that other side and this side. So a shaman, a medicine person, a lot of times that veil is very, very thin. And there's this constant communication that's going on between this other side of this veil and this side. And there's incredible information and insight and wisdom coming from that side of spirit that we all have access to. We are all able to work at thinning the veil. And usually it happens through meditation. The more we meditate, the more we get intuitive. Like, ooh, the phone rings. Oh, I bet you that's so-and-so. And sure enough, it is. That's that veil thinning a little bit. Or you have that intuitive feeling when you're working with someone that there's something else going on with this client, but he just or she's just not saying it, but you feel it. But it goes beyond that training. It's something else, that's kind of in there. That's that veil that's thinning. That's that information that's on the other side that's being transferred to you that you're picking up on that can help and support that client with more insight into their healing. So that's what I mean by that other side.
Okay, so does that, just to reflect back what you said and see if I understood it, does that mean connecting with people who are no longer living, like you mentioned with your father, and intuition in general?
So, yeah. So when I say the other side, I'm talking about other dimensions.
Okay.
So we have 3 dimensions, and then we have 4 and 5 and, beyond. It's just other dimensions.
4 and 5? I don't know about this.
Oh, so
the 4th dimension, the 5th dimension, I guess.
Yes,
okay.
Yes, exactly. So I always tell the story about the ant. This is what my father told me when I was first opening up to my spirituality. He said, an ant lives in 3 dimensions. An ant is crawling on the ground, and the ant doesn't know that you're looking at him. You can move your hand around him, and he's just going to keep on walking along his little path, doing his thing, completely unaware that I'm standing there making faces at him. He said, a bird knows when you're sneaking up on him. You can't sneak up on a bird. Birds are aware of you as a person. So that ant is living in a certain amount of dimensions. But just because he can't see you there, making faces at him and sneaking up on him, doesn't mean that you don't exist. So if I consider myself an ant, why should I think that there aren't other dimensions around me just because I can't see them?
Yeah.
So that's how he explained other dimensions of existence to me, because he said that as you begin to meditate, it begins to open and thin the veil.
Thank you for explaining that.
You're welcome.
And I think about how, like, before they had microscopes, they didn't believe germs were real, right? Like,
yeah, that's right.
Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. We just don't have the understanding. And then some people can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the things that's really interesting to me about this conversation is that the more we as therapists open to possibilities beyond what we see and know that are tangible, the more our clients will share with us, in my experience, those situations that occur in their lives too.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I've had clients who, when I became more open and mentioned something, maybe I mentioned something in passing about crystals, and that opened a conversation where the client, who I may have been working with for over a year, suddenly felt like they could share something about hearing spirits or seeing spirits and things like that. And it's like, that's a part of them that they didn't feel they could share until I became more open.
Yes. Yes. So you became more aware that it was okay to share.
Right. It's like they sensed that I wasn't someone it was safe to share that with until I opened, and then they felt it was safer, and then they could bring more of their whole self to therapy.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you brought more of your whole self to therapy.
Yeah, exactly. So there's no need to be afraid of what we don't maybe fully understand, but just to be open to learn more about it. And I'm so grateful to you for explaining these things.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so grateful that you're asking the questions. That's the only way.
Yeah. So, you know, going back to that idea of hiding, and again, as we were talking before, I know I've felt that, you know, you have to be a certain way to be perceived as credible and legitimate. And the more I relax how I feel I need to show up in order to be accepted, the more I'm comfortable with myself. And I think the more comfortable people become with me, especially the people who are really on the same kind of frequency as I am, the ones I want to connect with the most.
Right.
Like you.
Yeah. And you. Yeah. Like us.
Yeah. And so, you know, I'm thinking about how you were talking about in Soul Care University, how you teach people to use the practices that you've learned. And you and I also talked offline about how you supervise energy workers of all different stripes in their practice. And I was thinking about how someone might learn Reiki, but they don't have a business and they don't have, you know, credentials to make them feel that they can legitimately say, I practice Reiki. So then they have something that they could be sharing, but they don't know how they can. And I think there's so many ways that people have those abilities, like astrology and crystal healing and so many things. So I love that you're kind of giving that guidance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. I struggled for many years of what letters to put after my name to make me more acceptable or more credible, until now I've just gotten rid of all of them because they don't mean anything really.
Yeah.
And it was my Reiki master who I was attuned under that worked with me for a year, so intimately, so personal. She was one of my first teachers of parts work. She just was so amazing in how she helped me to bloom and blossom and deepen and shift and change, that the shamanic supervision really is patterned after how she helped me. So it's kind of everything I do and everything I share seems to be patterned after how I walked it or how someone helped me. And now I'm wanting to help others, to the sharing of the practices of the things that I did. I always would get those questions about, how do you do that? How are you taking care of yourself? And I would tell people, and I would really get that it was easier for me and not so easy for them. And so I began to break things down into smaller steps. And then they got it a little bit better. And so that's part of that, really giving myself permission to show up regardless. But, I'm not going to sit here and lie. That takes a lot of work because, I got to go through all my shadow stuff, and I'll do all my inner work, all my worthiness stuff to really be able to show up. Just like in this conversation, I could not have had this conversation a year ago.
So it's not just me.
No. No. And the conversation that I did have with you, I talked about things that I had not talked about. So it was a step.
Yeah.
We
were both stepping out of our comfort zone then.
Yes. Kind of stepping out and talking about, some of the meditative stuff I do and how I see the different parts of different people and things like that. That was a big step. So I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, it did. And I think for maybe people who are listening who are saying, I'm an intuitive, or I'm a crystal healer or angel counselor, and I don't know where I fit. I think it might be kind of reassuring to hear us both saying, we weren't quite sure at one point too.
Yeah.
And that you can help them figure it out.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing that kind of led me to that was having been in that social work practice and knowing that I had support as a counselor. I had someone that I could go to and I could staff my cases and I can talk to, and she helped me to develop my practice as a counselor, working with the girls that I was working with. But as far as my spiritual practice, because I've always done this side by side. So while I was in college, I was also learning about herbs. And while I was doing this, I was, always had this spiritual aspect to myself. There really wasn't anyone who could support me. So I had an herbal teacher, great. But for some of the other things that were going on, I didn't necessarily have a mentor. I had my Reiki master, but she was mostly supporting me with the Reiki and, the energy. But she also supported me with some of the other life stuff and philosophy. And so it just kind of became clear that, when you're an intuitive or you're an angel therapist or you work with gemstones, or you may not have anyone to go to, but you still need that support. Like when they're working with different clients, and who is supporting them through that process. And so, I wanted to create something that could be supportive in that way.
Well, I think it is a beautiful offering, and it's going to be, and probably already is, what you're already doing in addition to Soul Care University is a beautiful support to all of those people who want to bring their healing gifts to the world.
Yeah, thank you.
So do you want to tell our listeners anything else about kind of what you have to offer, or you think they should just go to your website and check it out, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they can go to my website and they can read about the different offerings that I have. I don't have a huge amount of clients that I see now. I'm mostly focused on developing different programs for the university and eventually going to start looking for other practitioners who want to offer e-courses on the site. That's that part of me that I'm very community focused. And so I don't have it all. It takes a community. And so my longer vision is that I have other practitioners and teachers who might have a course who they are wanting to get out there. And it's in alignment with that soul care, that soul nourishment philosophy. And then eventually I want to, start adding those things on there at some point. So that's something that I'm working on. And yeah, just the classes are on there. People can go to the website and there's a link to have access to see what classes are being offered. I have an e-course right now that's Awakening Your Feminine Power with Grandmother Moon. And that's probably the program that I have that most closely mirrors how and what I did and do for so many years to support me. So you get 2 meditations that are aura healing transmissions that you can listen to on the new and full moon. There's nature wisdom. There's activities that you can, like prompts, like soul work. So it's like I list questions that you can ask yourself. I introduce ritual and how to create personal ritual, which was a huge, that was my one day off. I did personal ritual. So the rituals are there. And so I walk you through this self-guided process over 13 months, 13 moons, each month, getting new activities, and you just keep building on the last. So that's the program that's most closest and dearest to my heart because it really is me on a plate. So if I could share anything, it would be that, to check out the Awakening Your Feminine Power with Grandmother Moon.
Wonderful. And tell us your website.
Yeah, it's chonteau.com.
That's CHONTEAU.com.
Yep, that's what it is.
Chonteau, thank you so much for coming back to Therapy Chat today. I really enjoyed this conversation, and I can't wait to share it with our audience.
Awesome. I'm excited as well. And thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure.
All right.
Thank you for listening to Therapy Chat with your host, Laura Reagan, LCSW-C. For more information, please visit therapychatpodcast.com.